General Hospital spoilers hint that flames are flying as Drew Quartermaine and Willow Corinthos approach the one-year anniversary of their illicit romance on July 4th, but fans are unsure whether their milestone will cause celebration or disaster. Willow is still suffering from losing custody of Amelia and Wiley Corinthos to Michael Corinthos in June, and Drew's manipulative lies are pushing her over the edge. Their scheduled anniversary could be filled with drama. Will their love withstand the fireworks of secrets being revealed? Or will revelations like Drew's flirtation with Nina Reeves destroy their relationship? A milestone marked by secrets. Drew and Willow's affair, which began in feverish stolen moments a year ago, is now strained by his betrayals, many of which she is still unaware of. Their anniversary preparations, such as a private supper at the Metro Court, may be intended to renew their bond, but Willow's delicate health and Drew's engagement push raise questions about whether it's love or control. If Nina's romance with Drew is revealed, maybe through Sasha Gilmore Corbin's slip or another brawl with Cody Bell, will their milestone celebration generate a passionate recommitment or erupt into a blazing split? In any case, this July 4th appears to have the potential to inspire serious independence. Fireworks or fallout. The anniversary could be a tipping point. If Willow discovers Drew's fling with Nina or his blackmail of Portia Robinson, a public fight, perhaps mid-toast, might terminate their romance, with Carly Spencer possibly on site as hostess and exacerbating the tragedy. Will Drew admit to what he did? If he doubles down and tells lies to keep Willow, he risks pushing her towards Michael for co-parenting. Will their anniversary result in pyrotechnics of love, or a tragic breakdown of trust? Port Charles prepares for the blast. A fiery anniversary could have an impact on Michael's custody stance, if Willow eventually sees the light. If she walks away, her chances of reclaiming visitation may improve, but Drew's desperation may worsen, and we may watch him become increasingly desperate rather than following her lead. Is there any possibility Drew and Willow's one-year anniversary will conclude with fireworks of desire, or will secrets like Nina's fling shatter their love? If the truth about Drew's relationship with Nina comes out, will she do the right thing as Willow's mother, or will she try to portray herself as a victim of his charms? Stay tuned for more GH updates and spoilers to discover out. Drew and Willow never anticipated their gentle attraction would result in something so explosive. A year ago they crossed a line they never intended to, never expected to, and never wanted to acknowledge to. It was a mistake shrouded in vulnerability, brought on by sadness, loneliness, and disappointment. But when the anniversary of their secret romance approached, that error no longer seemed like a lack in judgment. It had transformed into something deeper, more threatening and more defining. Willow had always been the epitome of loyalty and kindness, but that image had long ago fractured beneath the surface. Her marriage to Michael had felt solid for years, based on common goals and shared trauma, particularly throughout her cancer treatment. However, survival did not imply satisfaction, and healing did not indicate renewal. While her health improved, her emotional attachment to Michael weakened. It wasn't entirely his fault. He tried in his own way. However, his return to ELQ, his obsession with proving something to Sonny, and the icy diplomacy he carried into their home made it feel more like a boardroom than a family. She needed warmth. She needed to feel seen. Drew, still hurting from his own personal losses and the lies surrounding his return to Port Charles, felt similarly unmoored. Carly's rejection, while softened over time, had left him resentful. He threw himself into his profession, his image, and attempting to be the man he thought he was before prison and treachery tore him apart. Willow had been a shelter at first, simply listening, not asking too many questions, and offering stillness rather than platitudes. But when they found themselves alone one night, laden with booze and grief, the quiet broke. In that moment they grabbed for each other. What began as comfort became something memorable. They had agreed it would be a one-time event. An error. Something neither of them could ever talk about again. But if you let something like that live in the shadows, it won't die. It grows teeth. In the months that followed, they avoided each other with the civility that only the truly guilty possess. Drew immersed himself deeper in his power games at Aurora and ELQ. Willow worked harder to please Michael, being more friendly and giving, even if her heart wasn't in it. But the shame lingered like a shadow that neither could shake. And then, as luck would have it, they continued crossing paths, charity galas, family dinners, strategy discussions meant to support the next generation. It was during one of those gatherings, over 6 months after their affair, that the ice broke again. One smile is too long. One look that lingered. And then what they had buried resurfaced. They did not act on it immediately. However, the urge, once awakened, had merely been dormant. By the 1-year mark, they had returned to perilous area. Sneaky moments. Lingering touches. Text messages that say nothing but everything. The distinction between friendship and something far more intimate blurred altogether. Willow attempted to justify it. Michael became colder, more ambitious, and less interested in her as a partner. He adored their children, but with the determination of a CEO rather than the emotion of a father. Drew, on the other hand, helped her feel alive. It was more than just attraction, it was about connection. Regarding being seen, Drew also resisted it. He understood the stakes. He knew that if their secret became public, it would destroy Willow as well as him. However, reasoning paled in compared to longing. They reconnected on the night of their anniversary. This time it was unplanned. The Quartermain mansion was having another fundraiser, and both were slated to attend. Drew came late, already on edge from a tense phone discussion with Carly, during which she accused him of losing his sense of direction. Willow arrived early, accompanied by Michael, who instantly withdrew into a circle of power players. They spent the majority of the evening pretending not to notice one another, but every movement was magnetic. Every inadvertent brush of arms created tension that neither could contain. Then came the fireworks. Not figurative ones, but the literal sort. As part of the fundraiser, a special fireworks display was scheduled to conclude the evening. Everyone gathered on the lawn, champagne in hand, admiring the lights overhead. Michael was conversing with Ned, attempting to resolve a difference in ELQ's quarterly report. Willow slipped away from the crowd. Drew did as well. They found themselves alone on the far side of the garden, where flashes of light in the sky illuminated their faces for a fleeting moment. Neither spoke first. The quiet between them was no longer empty, it was charged and electrifying. "I didn't think you'd come," Willow murmured gently. Drew gazed at her with an unreadable expression. "I was not going to, but then I realized, it's been a year." The way he phrased it was not accusatory. It was full of regrets, full of something that was still burning. Willow nodded, her eyes moist. "I think about it more than I should. I think about it every day," he said, his voice raspy. That confession was the spark. The restraint they both wore like armor snapped apart. A single glance turned into a kiss, desperate, ravenous, and too hazardous for words. It wasn't simply lust. It was a year of unrelenting misery, bewilderment, and repression. They didn't travel far. Not physically. But the emotional leap they made that night meant there was no turning back. They pulled apart after that kiss, breathing heavily, mindful of what they had done. "We can't do this again," Willow said quietly. "I know," Drew replied. However, he did not let go of her hand. They waited there until the last firework exploded above them, knowing that everything had changed. The days following were a whirl of consequences. Willow returned home to Michael, who ignored her distracted energy since he was busy preparing a private jet to meet with investors in Zurich. But her heart was no longer in the house. It was stuck in the garden. With Drew. Drew, on the other hand, went into a downward spiral. The kiss plagued him. Not because he didn't want it, he did. Because it felt like it belonged to him. But he couldn't stand it. Not without destroying every life around them. They attempted to distance themselves again. But it did not work. This time they had awoken something too large to be buried. And secrets in Port Charles seldom remain hidden for long. Nina was the first to suspect anything. She noticed Willow's shift, how she appeared softer one moment and guiltier the next. Nina, hoping to mend their strained relationship, offered a listening ear. One Willow never used, but that didn't stop Nina from keeping a careful eye on things. Carly eventually caught on. Drew had gone frigid again, sullen in a way that only indicated one thing. He was hiding something. Carly knew him too well. And when she saw how he looked at Willow at a family lunch, it clicked. "Don't tell me you're that stupid," Carly exclaimed later that day, confronting Drew in the Quartermain study. Drew did not refute it. He did not confirm it either. However, the remorse in his eyes betrayed him away. "You're going to destroy her," Carly said. And you're going to destroy yourself in the process. He said nothing, because he already knew. Meanwhile, Michael remained unaware, but not for long. Carly and Nina were not the only ones who began piecing things together. Christina, too, had observed Willow's emotional decline. Christina began asking questions after a casual comment, a mismatched time frame, and a too lengthy stare. She did not want to believe it. Not about Willow. Not about Drew. But Port Charles had taught her not to disregard her intuition. The true explosion occurred weeks later. Valentine, ever the opportunist, caught wind of Drew's diversion and ordered an investigation into his recent financial and personal decisions. Valentine was not interested in love triangles, but he did worry about leverage. And when his operatives presented security footage from the Quartermain estate showing Drew and Willow kissing under the fireworks, grainy but undeniable, Valentine knew he had gold. He did not immediately go public. He hinted. He allowed the tension to develop. Then, during an ELQ shareholder meeting, with Michael leading the way, Valentine made an offhand comment about family loyalty and the danger of mixing business with personal betrayal. The crowd fell silent. Michael wanted clarification. Valentine smirked. Ask Drew how loyal he's been to your family lately, Valentine remarked, sliding a flash drive across the table. Michael took it, and his world broke. Later that night, he confronted Willow. He did not raise his voice. He did not have to. His stillness was deafening. He simply held the flash drive up, trembling. Is this true? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Willow's eyes flooded with tears. She did not refute it. She could not. Yes, she whispered. That single word exploded their universe. The fallout was immediate. Michael moved out. Drew resigned from Aurora, realizing he couldn't lead amid the crisis. Willow sank into a deep, secluded humiliation. The entire town was buzzing with chatter, and while no one had all of the facts, the pieces fit together too nicely to ignore. But, amidst the debris, something else remained. Drew and Willow's obvious attraction. Even as they stood among the ashes of their reputations, families, and futures, they kept coming back to each other. It wasn't fireworks anymore. It was hardly a desperate situation. It was quieter and more grounded. Something that wouldn't die. Drew and Willow had lost almost everything a year after their romance began with a single misstep. But they'd also discovered something else. Something that, despite the odds, felt worthwhile to stick onto. It was unclear whether Port Charles would allow them to keep it. According to General Hospital spoilers, Drew Quartermain is despised in Port Charles, with fans calling for his departure for months due to his vile antics. His tactics, paying a burn clinic nurse in Germany to turn Willow Corinthos away when she flew across the pond to see Michael Corinthos, emotionally scarring Wiley Corinthos with lies, and blackmailing Portia Robinson, have made him the most despised villain on G. However, rumors of a lingering plotline involving Kim Nero, who has been away since 2020, suggest Drew will not be able to disappear permanently. Her final appearance revealed a baby, Andy, named after Drew, implying a paternity twist. Could Kim's return with a child claiming Drew as father keep him anchored in Port Charles? Why do fans want Drew gone? Drew's transformation from Navy SEAL hero to cunning villain has enraged supporters online, with messages like, "Drew's gotta go. Wiley's trauma was too much." His falsehoods, such as assuring Wiley overheard Michael saying he didn't want him or Emilia Corinthos because of his new baby with Sasha Gilmore, and his romance with Nina Reeves while chasing Willow Corinthos, have sabotaged his atonement. His murky Esplanade sale and blackmail of Portia over Heather Weber's tests have fueled calls for his resignation. But can GH write him off with Kim's plot looming? Kim Nero's return looms large. Julian Jerome almost met newborn Andy in 2000, leaving GH fans everywhere with questions. Andy, named after Drew, was supposed to be Julian's, but Kim's relationship with Drew, her old love, suggests a paternity twist. If Kim arrives and claims Andy is Drew's son, he may be anchored to Port Charles and forced to face the music of an emotional showdown. A spectacular reveal might end his career as a congressman, wiping out Washington, D.C. Off the table, too. Will Kim's bombshell keep him in town? Is there a villain who is too powerful to disappear? Fans' hate for Drew contrasts with GH's ability to keep villains central, And Kim's likely return with Andy ensures that his story isn't over. Her visit could cause turmoil for a variety of people, disrupting Drew's plans. Facebook posters cry out, "No more Drew." Yet some say, Kim and a child could redeem him. Will Drew's despicable activities ultimately drive him away? Or will Kim Nero's return with the child named Andy keep him in Port Charles, causing further havoc? Stay tuned for more GH updates and spoilers to discover out. Drew's life in Port Charles has never been straightforward. From the minute he arrived disguised as Jason, to his eventual understanding of who he truly was, his path was twisted by secrets, loyalties, and profound emotional attachments. Many people may believe that now that he is considering leaving town, he can simply pack his belongings, walk away, and begin again. But for Drew it's not easy, and it never will be. There are forces in Port Charles that pull him back, even when logic and safety dictate otherwise. It's more than simply unfinished business. It's about identity, remorse, vengeance, hope, and a lingering sense of obligation that won't let him go. Drew's dilemma is centered on the vast network of personal ties he has developed over the years. He may have started out as a foreigner in town, but he's now integrated into the fabric of Port Charles. His friendship with Scout is unbreakable. His kid is growing up quickly, and the prospect of missing a moment in her life hurts him. Every missed birthday, every milestone he won't be present to witness, is a burden he can't bear. It's not just about being a good father. It's about being the guy he aspires to be, someone who shows up no matter how difficult things get. Sam is also involved despite the fact that they are no longer a couple. Their co-parenting relationship is based on a delicate trust, which might be easily shattered if Drew disappeared again. He knows what that would mean for Scout, and he knows Sam will not forgive him this time. Then there is Carly. Their connection has grown stronger since Jason's return. Drew had quietly stepped in as her supporter, friend, and possibly more. Despite the fact that Jason was considered dead, their chemistry persisted. Now that Jason has returned, things are even murkier than before. Drew finds himself trapped in a terrible triangle, unsure how to move forward without treading on someone else's heart. Carly has relied on him, confided in him, and drawn closer than she likely wanted. Drew has given her the loyalty she no longer receives from Sonny. And while Jason's presence complicates matters, Drew can't walk away from Carly without feeling like he's leaving her at a moment when she still needs him. Jason's comeback alone is a major factor. Drew and Jason are brothers not just by name, but also by experience, trauma, and blood. Their dynamic has always been tense, even when they try to be friendly. Drew recalls how he wasted years of his life living someone else's world. Even when he appears otherwise, he harbors tremendous resentment. However, guilt also exists. For surviving while Jason did not. For receiving a second opportunity. And now it's time to stand in Jason's shadow again. Leaving would feel like capitulation. Like allowing Jason to take everything back unopposed. Drew does not want a battle, but he also does not want to go peacefully. There's some pride involved, and a strong desire to prove that he, too, belongs in this community just like Jason. His business transactions in Port Charles also connect him to the area in ways that most people do not realize. Aurora is more than simply a job. It's his endeavor to rebuild something meaningful, something stable and real, rather than military awards or spy missions. If he leaves, it will crumble. Especially now, when ELQ is only one boardroom betrayal away from dissolution and the Quartermaines are at odds. Michael trusts him. Ned tolerates him. Valentine maintains a careful watch over him. And Tracy? Well, Tracy is always ready to strike if she detects weakness. Walking away now would be like giving the company over to the wolves. Drew understands better than anyone what happens when the wrong people take control. However, it is not solely about corporate power conflicts or bloodlines. Drew is plagued by what happened while he was held captive. In some respects, those years are a blank canvas for him. In others, they are marred by violence, coercion, and treachery. He still wakes up some nights with the sensation of cold steel against his wrists or the sound of Peter August's words in his brain. He has not recovered from that. Not really. While Port Charles is full with ghosts, he also has access to the people who helped him get through that pain. Dr. Kevin, Liz, even Sonny in an odd sense since he understands what it is to go through violence and emerge transformed. Therapy, support, and comfort. It's all here. Leaving would not only mean fleeing painful memories. It would imply leaving behind the only area where he might truly improve. There is also unfinished business. Drew is a knowledgeable individual. He has concerns about Valentine, pikemen, and backroom agreements with those who don't like leaving witnesses. And he believes that what he knows makes him a target. The safest option might be to run. But it is not who Drew is. It's never been. He's the one who jumps into the fire to get someone out. The guy who volunteered for perilous missions and survived to tell the story. He is not built to walk away, especially when there is danger lurking and people he cares about could be wounded. If he left and something happened to Scout, Carly, or Jason, he'd never forgive himself. That protective impulse is deeper than he understands. He's approached Scout's world with caution and care, but he's also found himself attempting to shield her from shadows she can't see. Her safety is paramount. But there's also Drew's growing responsibility as a guardian for people other than his own kid. He feels responsible for the younger generation in Port Charles in ways he cannot fully articulate. He sees the pain in Jocelyn's eyes, the uncertainty in Christina's voice, and the mounting pressure on Michael. Even though he is not their father, he believes he can fill the need. Walking away would be like leaving them exposed. He's tried to talk himself out of his savior complex before, but it clings to him like armor, which he's not ready to remove. Drew is at a crossroads in his romantic relationships. Carly isn't his, but she also hasn't returned to Jason. There is an undeniable sense of tension in the air. Drew wants to be with someone who sees him not just as Jason's successor, but as Drew Kane, a man with his own intellect and heart. Carly has caught flashes of that. But she's also sad, confused, and feeling tugged in several directions. Drew's heart is telling him to stay and wait. That if Carly is patient enough, she may freely select him. If he left right now, it would be like giving up on that potential. Worse, it would feel like showing that he was never a contender in the first place. Then there is Willow. Their relationship is convoluted, with more ties to Michael than to Drew directly. Willow's generosity, understanding, and quiet strength, however, have resulted in an unexpected bond for Drew. In some respects, Willow has served as a moral compass for him. He observes how she fought for her life and kept her family together despite the hardship. She reminds him of what he aspires to be. Someone strong and worthy. That camaraderie, that steadying power, may be subtle, but it's enough to make him hesitate. She is another reason he cannot disappear. Another reason he feels secure here, even when everything else pushes him away. Everywhere Drew looks, there's another thread connecting him to Port Charles. He cannot forget his history. He is still working on a present. He's not sure about his future, but he's not ready to give up. He isn't a nomad anymore. He's more than just a former Navy SEAL and a victim of memory theft. He is a resident of this place, and every corner of it represents some aspect of who he has become. The truth is that Drew may leave Port Charles, but he cannot stay away. Even if he could suppress his remorse and convince himself that everyone would benefit, something would bring him back. A crisis. A friend is in need. A child made a phone call. A rumor about corruption in the corporate world. A secret he couldn't let go. He'd be drawn back in just like always. Even if none of that happened, even if the world no longer needed him, the plain truth remains. He has no idea how to live anywhere else. He could travel to Belize, start over in Denver, and disappear in Seattle. But it would not stick. Port Charles is more than just a place. It's where his story unraveled and began again. It's there he discovered aspects of himself he didn't even realize were missing. It is home to both his ghosts and his hopes. Walking away from all of that is not strength. It is avoidance. Drew Kane has never avoided a battle. So he stayed. Not because he has to, but because a part of him wishes to. Has to. Because even when it hurts and the odds are stacked against him, Port Charles feels familiar. And when you've spent years looking for identity, stability, and significance, leaving home isn't just difficult. It's impossible. General Hospital Recap Tuesday, July 1st. Marco saves Christina. Natalia is found dead. Brennan sets Joss straight. Michael experiences a traumatic flashback. General Hospital recaps for Tuesday, July 1st. See Marco Rios saving Christina Corinthos Davis' life. But his mother Natalia Ramirez is discovered dead. Also, Jack Brennan corrects Jocelyn Jacks, and Michael Corinthos experiences a horrible flashback. As Christina is trapped, Alexis visits Sidwell. Christina enters Charlie's and notices that the floor is coated in liquid. Then someone throws a firebomb through the window. She hastily gets a fire extinguisher and attempts to extinguish the flames. Meanwhile, atop the turret at Windmere, Jen Sidwell notices the fire blazing and informs one of his associates that they have finished the assignment. As he walks inside, Alexis Davis appears, and he inquires about her reason for seeking this meeting. She has a few inquiries about the products he is importing. Although his son may supervise his account, she feels compelled to do a comprehensive investigation. Sidwell and Alexis argue over Alexis's need to vet the contracts. Sidwell and Alexis continue to fight about her need to vet the contracts, and he points out that the most of them are standard. He inquires whether she has any reservations about his kid. She responds that it is typical to supervise a new associate for the first 6 months. She doesn't understand why this is a concern for him, and Sidwell claims it's an inefficient use of time. He believes she is thoroughly scrutinizing Marco's work due to their familial relationship, whilst the lawyer is adamant about evaluating the records. Sidwell feels the need to drink. Marco went to check on his mother and ended up saving Christina. Marco is concerned that his mother isn't responding to his texts or phone calls, so he goes to Metro Court to check on her. While traveling, he phones Lucas Jones to apologize for letting his mother spoil their evening. When he senses something, he quickly hangs up and hurries into Charlie's, which is on fire. Christina is behind the bar, phoning for assistance. He temporarily leaves, then returns draped in a blanket, sprints through the flames, and rescues her through the rear door. Dante Falconeri appears immediately after they enter the parking lot. General Hospital recap July 1st. Marco saves Christina, Michael's traumatic flashback, and Natalia is dead. The rest of the family is still at the Quartermaines. At the Quartermaines, Sasha Corbin fights to keep Daisy Gilmore in her sights. In the foyer, Michael and Sonny talk about the joys of being a grandfather until Jason Morgan takes his boss aside for a meeting. Jason informs Sonny that Natalia missed her flight. Molly Lansing Davis arrives with gifts, and Michael discusses Christina being called into work. Carly Spencer asks Jason why Natalia was at the chapel, but he remains silent. Sonny returns to chatting with Michael on how amazing the kids were today, and Michael muses on what a fantastic father Sonny was, always making time for him and making him feel cherished. Sonny tells him he's a fantastic man and is proud to be his father. They hug. Sonny and Jason rush to the scene. Meanwhile, at the Quartermaine mansion, Jason receives a call about the fire at Charlie's and promptly informs his boss. They leave immediately. When Jason and Sonny arrive at Charlie's, they are surprised to see Marco and Christina together. Jason questions why he is there, and Christina defends him. She narrates how Marco came to her rescue and describes the entire experience. This increases Sonny's concerns, as everything appears to be fairly handy. Molly and Sasha bond. Molly learns about the fire. Molly admires the baby while Sasha expresses her appreciation for Molly's attendance. Molly admits that it aches but is happy for Sasha. They'd both lost infants in the past and bond over it as the two ladies look at images from the christening, and Carly reassures Sasha that she'll look after Daisy. Sasha is excited and wants to enjoy every minute. Molly receives a call about a fire and notifies Michael, who has a flashback to the time he was trapped in Sonny's apartment. Molly struggles to hold her keys, prompting Cody Bell to offer her a ride. While driving, she calls her mother to update her on the fire. Molly panics but is relieved when they get to the scene. Molly is anxious and Cody attempts to calm her down. She is concerned that her sister may be dying just as they are beginning to reconnect. He encourages her not to torture herself until they figure out what occurred, and when they arrive, Molly rushes over and embraces her sister. Alexis arrives, relieved to find her daughter safe, but she lashes into Sonny, saying he brings death and violence to his family and that it must stop. She cannot lose another daughter. Christina tries to help her father, but Alexis refuses. Cody offers to take the Davis women to the hospital. Jason and Sonny query who started the fire as a firefighter approaches and informs Dante that it was set on purpose.